Tool is a band. That's all I've really got to say, because putting words on what exactly Tool is for me is nearly impossible, if not impossible altogether. It's such a confusing combination of pain, joy, power, weakness, love, resent, conflict, resolution, just so much that I don't think that there's a single accurate description that I could put on them. The imagery in their 10,000 Days and Lateralis eras in particular stands as some of their most iconic and some of the most iconic throughout metal history. The albums feature deeply ornate anatomical graphics with elements of religious and spiritual imagery. The creature on 10,000 Days in particular is what I imagine machine elves to actually look like. With how fitting the art style is for the band that it represents, one couldn't be blamed for assuming that the art style was created for Tool in the first place. However, this couldn't be further from the truth. Not only this, but he's the man responsible for painting Maynard during the Lateralis era, the concept art behind Nirvana's In Utero, and the gatefold on Beastie Boys' Ill Communication vinyl. He also was a professional medical illustrator for over 10 years and did this painting of George Washington. This artist is also just plain and simple responsible for some of the most breathtaking works of our time across multiple different mediums, themes, and messages. The man behind the brush is Alex Grey and his longtime partner and wife, Allyson Grey. Alexander Velzy, professionally known as Alex Grey, was born in 1953 in Columbus, Ohio. Not much information is available about Alex's upbringing, and truth be told, there's not a ton of plain and simple information about Alex altogether, aside from his tons of artworks that he's left on the world. This thankfully proves to be an extensive treasure trove of information that we can gather from. What is known though is that Alex's father was a graphic designer, and one wouldn't be blamed for assuming that his father was probably responsible for some of his early influence on taking art seriously in the first place. And also because his father was a professional in this field, he was probably more than likely capable of giving Alex information that he wouldn't have gotten from another parent. People don't really realize how impactful the support of a parent can be to a budding artist, so hearing this is probably a good explanation for how Alex was able to grow and evolve so fast with his art form. Originally, he attended the Columbus College of Arts and Design, but dropped out after about 2 years or so. He would go on to finish his education at the School of the Museum of the Fine Arts at Tufts. While studying there, Alex met somebody who would go on to be the second half of many of his creative endeavors going forward, Allyson Grey. Alex and Allyson were both attending a party in college when one of their professors gave them a large dose of LSD. Following this, Alex had a vision of a pearlescent spiral tunnel. He says he started moving through the dark and towards the light, a light he describes as God. During this experience, Alex recalls seeing all of the conflicts and prejudices of humanity being solved as he ascends toward the top. This would be one of the most pivotal points in his entire career, and is the reason that he decided to change his artistic name to Alex Grey. This is because the area in which all of the conflicts and resolutions are seen is described as the Grey. Following Alex's bout in college, he began a 10-year career as a medical illustrator. This close encounter with human bodies working in a morgue did two major things for Alex. One, it gave him a much deeper understanding of human anatomy and the human form. And two, he recalls it gave him a much greater understanding of how to appreciate how much value the spirit brings to the human experience. Alex would use this career as a professional medical illustrator to fund his graphic design and visual arts endeavors. Now, before Alex was widely known for the psychedelic masterpieces that he is today, he was more prone to a lot of performance arts that erred on the side of punk or rebellion. The main one that comes to mind is the 6-month-long performance art he did, where he shaved half of his hair off and opened himself up to many opportunities for public humiliation. One of these instances includes Alex standing on a street corner handing out pictures of himself. When handed the picture, he gives the passerby the option to either throw the picture on the ground and stomp on it, or invite him to dinner. Another performance called Private Subway featured Alex riding across town on a subway under a self-portrait placed in an ad slot. The 6-month-long performance ended with an act called Brain Sack, and I'll just let Alex's own description do the heavy lifting here. Quote, "I ate a plate of spaghetti and then I cut my hair onto the plate. I placed the brain onto the hair, took the universal antidote, syrup of ipecac, and vomited the spaghetti up onto the brain. I put it all in a sack, and that was brain sack." End quote. As time went on, the Greys ended up becoming extremely famous for all of their works in painting, performance art, and their other various mediums. One of the most polarizing acts put on by the group was called The Beast. The Beast saw Alex Grey positioned behind a black desk. Alex carries a stamp wearing a military outfit. Behind Alex is a red wall depicting the world's continents. Covering the continents is a giant black web, and atop the web is an 8-limbed giant skeleton, armed to the teeth. Atop the skeleton's head is the number 666, the same thing featured on Alex's stamp. Alex claims the act was a statement against the perceived evils of the global military-industrial complex, and his acknowledgement of his complicity. Another piece done by the Greys was Wasteland, another performance art. Alex recalls the piece by stating, "Mr. and Mrs. X were on their way to dinner when they were surprised by a nuclear blast. They arrived at a dinner table in hell to feast on money. So that's what we did. We ate the money and drank the blood and vomited it up onto the table." Some art's kind of like shock therapy to activate us and to wake us up. The Greys would also go on to have run-ins with other pop culture icons, mainly musicians. The first case of this comes in 1993 with the release of Nirvana's smash hit album In Utero. Now, while the Greys are not directly responsible for designing the transparent animatronic model that was used for the In Utero design, it's widely speculated that one of the graphics that was designed by Alex Grey was the inspiration for the piece in the first place. The main reason for this is because an early promotion for In Utero features an anatomical graphic done by Alex. This same anatomical image can be seen on the interior booklet of In Utero as well. Now, it's well known that Kurt was a fan of pretty much everything that Grey was involved with artistically, even if he didn't mention him outright, so I think it's a pretty safe assumption to learn that Kurt was probably more than familiar with Grey's work. Just 1 year later, in 1994, the Beastie Boys used a painting done by Alex entitled Gaia for the gatefold of their album Ill Communication. Easily the most famous case of the Greys working with someone outside of their own realm is their long-standing run with Tool. Alex Grey met Adam Jones back in 1999, and from that point on, the Greys have been pretty much inseparable from the imagery that comes from Tool. Tool has featured the Greys' artwork on album covers, merchandise, concert posters, set backdrops, music videos, and much, much more. As stated before, Alex is even responsible for the legendary series of Tool concerts where Maynard is painted blue with other various psychedelic images painted on his body. The work that Alex and Allyson have done over the years has made them household names in many cases, and in other cases, it's made their art more recognizable than the amount of people then can even attribute it to them. Now, if this alone was all the Greys had done throughout their career, we would just love and appreciate them all the same. But thankfully, this isn't the case. In fact, this is just a small piece of what would become a genre-defining collection and series that would come out of the Greys that would span over 40 years in influence. This series is known as the Sacred Mirrors. The Sacred Mirrors is a series of 21 pieces completed by the Greys. In this series, Alex is attempting to portray a map for the interconnectedness of the mind, body, and spirit. This series would go on to spawn many related works by Grey, and is a great encapsulation of the overarching theme of his art in general. As far as I've learned, every single piece of these 21 pieces was done by Alex and Allyson themselves, from the painting of the images down to the plastering and molding of the frames. This collection was first showcased in 1986 at the New Museum in New York. This, however, was only a small piece of the grander idea that the Greys had for their collection. In 1985, the Greys had come up with an idea to construct a trans-denominational church. This church, or chapel, was going to be seen as a sanctuary for spiritual renewal through the appreciation of transformative art. The Greys would spend the 1990s and part of the early 2000s gathering the funds to start the chapel. Finally, in 2004, when a space was donated to them, the Greys were able to open the first Chapel of Sacred Mirrors out in New York. The original chapel housed various artworks by the Greys, as well as pieces by their colleagues. The chapel is the summation of the collective input of the Greys' artistic contributions based on a shared vision during an LSD trip in 1976. It was at this time that the Greys claimed to have witnessed the interconnectedness that would remain a transitional theme throughout their work. The Greys claimed to first witness this in the form of a toroidal fountain and drain of self-illuminating love energy, a cellular node or jewel in a network linked omnidirectionally without end. This theme of interconnectedness that they discovered would go on to spawn numerous works from the Greys. One of these was a performance art called Life Energy. It was for this performance that Alex sketched two maps, one for the nervous system and one for subtle energy. After seeing how well the people responded to these two designs, Allyson suggested to Alex that he do an entire series based on these, and that's where the idea for the Sacred Mirrors was born. In 2008, the Greys purchased a 40-acre interfaith center in Wappinger, New York, and filed for 501c3 protection. To this day, the chapel is open to people who would like to view the Greys' artwork or participate in one of the many events that are held on the grounds. Now, while I haven't been able to visit the chapel due to the sheer distance of how far it is away from where I live, there is a place that's closer to home that I have been able to visit. The place is a little art gallery on Haight Street in San Francisco called Psychedelic SF. It's in this gallery that you will find numerous prints done by Alex and Allyson Grey. While the pieces in there aren't the original paintings themselves, of course, all of the prints are done by Alex's company and licensed with the help of Alex and Allyson. Putting words on exactly how I feel when I'm looking at the Greys' artwork is exactly how I feel when I'm trying to put words on Tool, and for that reason, I think they work perfectly together. At first, the Greys' work can seem extremely dark, mysterious, and uninviting. But when one takes a second to understand the worldview of the artist that created them, they suddenly become some of the deepest and most beautiful arts that we have in the modern time. You see, Alex and Allyson are fearless artists who take risks to portray the messages that they want to portray. Risks of self-harm, risks of humiliation, the risk that all this time and money and energy spent on creating art will be for nothing, as the case is for many artists, unfortunately. But somehow, whether by some stroke of luck, genius, or a combination of the two, the Greys have not only built an unmatchable legacy, but have founded a place of spirituality where artists can go and observe the wonderful world of art. And it's for this reason that they will always be remembered as pioneers and innovators of modern psychedelic art. If you'd like to learn more about the Greys and their work, you can head over to cosm.org. This is their official website, and it has a treasure trove of facts, artistic wonders, and different things you can learn about. Anyways, that's all from us. We'll catch you in the next video.